what's up? I'm Basil Barrington. I am here today with Ivan Calderon. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. First of all, why don't you just start out by telling everyone who you are and what is it that you do?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Ivan Calderon. I am a music producer, and I guess we can throw in YouTuber in there as well. My fiance makes fun of me sometimes. She calls me an influencer. I don't know how I feel about that word, but yeah, I'm a YouTuber. I'm a producer, and that's pretty much at the foundation of it. I produce music and I make videos for the internet.
How did you get into the music production space? When did that start? How did you sort of realize that you wanted to be a music producer?
Yeah, it's funny because I've done, or at least I've had an interest in music since forever. And I think I'm one of those like lucky few that knew from the very, very beginning that music was my thing. My dad, so I'm originally from Mexico. I was born in Mexico, came to the States in '99. But for the first 6 years or so from when I was born to when I came here, my dad would send back, because he was here, he would send back musical instruments for me to play. And I had a whole band's worth. So I would give out concerts to my family. Music has always been a part of me, but I didn't really discover production or like recording or like the technical side of music until I reached like 10th grade in high school here in the States. I went to a school that had a program called IB. It stands for International Baccalaureate. Yeah, International Baccalaureate. So basically, they just let you do, it's just a bunch of like college work to prep you to go to college. But one of the projects we had to do was to write an essay, and you could do the essay on whatever you wanted, but you just had to, or you could do the project on whatever you wanted as long as you had an essay written for it. So at that time, I was in the marching band. I played trumpet for my marching band in high school, and my best friend played the drums. And I was like, why don't we do a documentary on the process of making a song? I played guitar at that point as well because I played for my church. So we did it. We recorded a song. I played the guitar, the bass. He played all the drum parts. And that experience kind of led me down the rabbit hole of what is recording and, production and engineering. And then honestly, after that, it was just a matter of putting all the pieces together. I went to college, started collecting little by little, building my studio. And then here we are, years later. But yeah, it's always been a part of me.
So how and when did you start posting content to YouTube? Was that something that it was just organic because you were, came out as a music producer, and then you were like,
Sure.
hey, you know what, I want to just start like creating content. How did that happen?
Yeah, so in 2017, I left my last, like, I guess, real job and to try to do this full time. And at that time, my all of my business was just getting clients, bringing them into the studio, recording them. And I've always wanted to do a YouTube channel. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start making studio vlogs. So my channel originally, few people that don't know this, but it started out as a vlog channel. It was just studio vlogs. I would show me with clients coming into the studio. And then little by little, I think I posted the last like video that one of the last few vlogs that I posted, I showed my vocal chain, which I think that video is still up on the channel. And people started to, be really receptive of it. And then I realized this could be an opportunity for me to give back. Because like I said, when I started, there was very few resources. Maybe there was a couple blogs here and there, but there wasn't really what we have now, which now is a blessing. You can pretty much graduate from YouTube University if you wanted to,
Can.
But yeah, so eventually I kind of switched the content. I switched from vlogs back over to like tutorials and just kind of showing people what I do. But yeah, that was, I made the switch probably like end of 2017, early 2018, something like that. I don't remember.
I was reading your website, and your short bio, you stated that in 2007, you picked up your first copy of FL Studio. Everyone started out with Fruity Loops, right?
I think so. I think that's kind of like the starting point for most of us.
So it's 2021 now. Over the years, how have you leveled up on, just in terms of hardware and software in your, recording studio?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the foundation of all of that just is my idea of choosing things that make my life easier, regardless of what they are. If I can find a way to do something, smarter or just more efficient, then I will do that. So I started with FL, and mind you, FL is an extremely user-friendly DAW, but it just didn't click for me. It didn't click for me when I got it, and I know that sounds bizarre, but it just did not make sense. I found out later that I'm more of like a timeline kind of guy. So I like to see things in an arranger view, which I guess would be the playlist view in FL Studio, but that's not the default view. The default view is a step sequencer.
Right.
So I tried it. I didn't necessarily like it. Then I picked up Logic 9 at the time when they sold it with like the huge books worth of CDs that you had to install. It took me like
dongle, right?
No, I had the CDs. So I had the like thick box of CDs that I had to pop in to download everything, because for some reason we couldn't use the internet like we do now. I don't know.
Right.
But I tried Logic, and that just gave me a lot more possibility, but it still wasn't, I don't know, it didn't click with me yet until a friend in 2012 introduced me to Studio One. And at that time we were in version 2, and immediately it clicked for me. Yeah. So I kind of just started building my studio around that. I started with the basic stuff everybody does. I started with some speakers, the Yamaha's HS, they were 80s, HS80Ms at that point. The versions we have now are 8s, I believe, but I still have those. So I have those. I started with, I bought those. I bought a Machine MK1, which sadly died not too long ago. Rest in peace, because that thing took me, it took me through a lot of beats. Picked that up, and I picked up an Akai MPK61. You can probably see behind me. I still use that today. Right. And that's all I had. I had Studio One, 2, my Yamahas, my Akai, and my Machine. And just, probably in the last couple of years, I've started to really expand. So you start to pick up things here and there as you start to add more things to the studio. But at the basic, foundation, speakers. And I had an M audio interface. Very inexpensive.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I had the Firewire version. That's not even a thing anymore. Maybe there is. I don't know.
Wait a minute. Did you have because my very first audio interface was the M Audio
Profire?
Firewire. I think it was the 610.
I think mine was called the Profires. If I looked it up, I could probably find it. But it was only Firewire, no USB.
Yeah.
And at that time, the MacBooks had a Firewire port, so it worked.
You recently, I was checking out your one of your latest videos. You recently posted a video of you doing a studio tour, and I noticed that you had some Presonus gear. And we're actually looking at it right now. How were you introduced to sort of that Presonus ecosystem?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, my friend, Justin, shout out to Justin. He introduced me to Studio One in around 2012, and immediately just clicked for me because everything was so user-friendly, drag and drop. So that was probably my first piece of Presonus gear, so to speak. But now I have the PD70, which I'm using now for this call, which is fantastic. It's a great microphone, super affordable. But I also have the fader port, the Atom SQ. I had the regular Atom before that, and I think that's where I'm at the moment. But I'm also looking to get the central station because I want to add another pair of monitors here, and that would require a monitoring system.
I'm going to name some specific pieces of Presonus gear, and I want you to give me your thoughts on it, okay?
Sure, yeah, shoot.
Okay, let's start with the IO Station 24C, which I also own.
Nice, I see it in the back.
Here, and this is big boy status right here. But what do you think about the IO Station 24C?
I think it's great. I think, well, first of all, I have the fader port, like I mentioned, and I love this thing.
Yeah.
It just allows me to, it increases my workflow in a way that I didn't think before, but as I'm producing, I'm mixing, and having that fader there, that motorized fader is great. So for someone who might be looking for something like this, plus an audio interface, that's a fantastic solution. I don't think I'll ever use it, not because it's not good, but because I have you know, a love, an appreciation for UAD and their interfaces.
Okay.
So I'm rocking the twin MK2.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think that thing is great.
What about the Presonus Atom?
Love the Atom. Love the Atom. So I had as I mentioned before, I had the regular Atom before this. And I got the Atom because my machine died. So I was going to get an MK3, like the mini, but you know, me using Studio One, I thought, let me try let me give the Atom a try since it integrates so nicely with the software. Fell in love with it. Not only can you make beats, but you can also control a lot of Studio One with it. It's also a DAW controller.
It is.
And I recently switched over to the SQ, and I've done a couple videos on that one as well. But this has now become almost like my main controller to kind of get some quick ideas out, because I can play my drums, and because it has that scale mode, I can play chords and melodies a lot quicker than I could on like a piano. Obviously, if I still need to play some more intricate kind of, you know, piano parts, then I go to my Kai. But yeah, this stays on my desk, the Atom SQ.
So you basically put the Atom aside, and now you are full time with the Atom SQ. Yeah. What do you think about the SQ?
Honestly, when I first saw it, I really wanted to hate it, because it reminded me of like a step sequencer. And again, going back to our conversation, that just didn't click in my head when I first started producing. But I was like, what the heck? Let me see what I can do with it. And I learned to love it. I love that it has the 2 rows, because even though the pads are smaller, significantly smaller than the Atoms, the regular Atoms, it gives me 2 banks. So I can really have a bunch of drums at my disposal. And, you know, tapping drums out is not too hard on this thing either. So it's great.
Speaking of the Atom and the Atom SQ, do you think they're basically the same, or both have like different use cases?
I think they are different, but they also overlap a lot. Like there is definitely, maybe depending on your workflow, you can have them both live together. But for my specific purposes, there was no reason to keep the Atom when the SQ did what the Atom did plus more. Yeah. You know? So that's kind of where I'm at now. But again, I'm sure there's scenarios where both live together. So yeah, it's just a matter of kind of figuring out and seeing what your workflow is.
So you were just talking about the Presonus PD70 microphone, which we both have. So what do you think about the Presonus PD70 microphone?
Yeah, well, it definitely comes in at a very competitive price point.
Right.
I think it's definitely, you know, not to knock Shure. Shure makes great stuff, and you know, the S7B will forever be, you know, one of the go-tos.
That's the Hall of Fame. But for someone who might,
right, that's the broadcast one, like that's the podcast mic. But you know, if you're someone who maybe is looking into, if you have like a lower budget or whatever the case might be, this is a great alternative. The only caveat that I have with it, or the only gripe that I have with it, is that I do think it's a little bit thin on the lower end. So oftentimes what I do is, because I run it through the Apollo, I slap on a Pultec and I crank up the low end just a little bit for my voice anyway. But I think it's great. What I will say though is it's still, because it's a dynamic microphone, it still requires a lot of gain. And I'm not necessarily a fan of like having to crank up the thing all the time. And I'm also not a fan of the cloud lifter, not because it's bad, but because it requires 2 cables. So it's just a lot of clutter everywhere. I'm currently looking at the Triton FET head. It's just a little kind of, you attach it to the back. It takes minimal space. And I think that's what I'm going to get for this one. Right now, I just have it cranked.
What do you think about Studio One version 5? Again, knowing that you came from version 2.
Yeah. You know, the one thing that I love about Presonus, aside from them making quality products, is that they really listen to the community.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know what other companies are like, but I have obviously a connection, a history to Presonus, and they're always very attentive to the community and what they're wanting, and they're always improving. So there has obviously been a big shift between 2 to 5. But they've kind of obviously started to add things for everybody. I think for producers, our shining moment was 4, specifically also 4.5. We got a lot of great features. This one, obviously great improvements, great new features, but it's definitely geared more towards the people who are doing live performances or like composing. This one wasn't really a producer's, centric kind of update. But again, they're making a DAW that can kind of accommodate everybody's needs. So yeah, I know. All I know for sure is that they're always listening. So I've given my thoughts. I listen to people who message me. I relay those, that information, and it's just a matter of waiting. But yeah, I know they're definitely keeping their ear to the ground, so to speak.
With the Presonus Studio 1.5, it came with a bunch of totally new and redesigned plugins, right? And, I think some of those plugins sound really good. If you had to work exclusively using Studio One's stock plugins, do you think that's something you can do?
Absolutely. I think obviously whenever you start to progress in your career, there's certain problems that you come across. And that's probably the one piece of advice that I can give to someone. Don't pick something up unless unless you have a problem that cannot be done with whatever you already have. So that's when you start to kind of upgrade. But the plugins from Studio One, they're fantastic, especially this new redesign. A lot of times all you really need is EQ and compression. But those are already there, and they have a suite, an array of different things. So 100%, if you took all the stuff that I use today, I can still make a record with stock plugins. I'm sure of it.
Here you are in pre-production creating a song. You've done all your, your mixing and everything. And then to be able to take that into the project page and start your mastering, man, that's like a game changer for me,
Right. And that was probably another big feature for me too, because it has the mastering suite built in as well. So and they link together.
Yeah.
So if I ever, if I send a project from mixing to mastering to that page, and I go back and make changes to the mix, it'll update on the master. And it's just effortless. Man. And that's kind of like their whole, ecosystem. Everything just works. It's almost like Apple in a way.
Are there any other sort of Presonus items that you have in your arsenal?
Not at the moment, but I am looking at that central station, and I was looking at the one you have, the desk one, but I kind of don't like to have too much clutter. And at this moment, I have like the maximum amount of things that I would ever want on a desk.
Right.
So I just want to get that rack unit, put it in the rack, have the controller here, which is, it doesn't take up that much space as the desk unit would, and just kind of run with that. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at. As soon as I pick up a third pair, I think I'm going to be forced to get the central station. That's the one I'm looking at now.
The central station is rack mountable, right?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay.
Yep, and it comes with a little control that you can just put on your desk.
Right. So, like in your studio tour video, you were talking about you were using, you had, and still, I think you still are using this very old IKEA desk that you're on, right? And so are you looking at a different desk? And if you are, do you like something in particular?
I do have a couple of contenders. This desk has been great. First of all, I know a lot of people knock IKEA, but regardless, it has held up and it's done me well, so I can't knock it. But I do need something, because I would love to have at least maybe 4 rack units here in front of me.
Right in front of you.
Right. There's just things that you just need immediately. I've looked at everything. I've looked at the platform by output. I've looked at the studio design desks. I've looked at, there's another company that I'm recently kind of really eyeing. They're called, actually, I don't even remember. They're called AZ Studio Workstations. I don't know where they're from, but they have some really great desks available. So the Artista is the one that I'm kind of eyeing, because it has a few racks in front of you, and it has a pull-out tray for your MIDI keyboard, which is another thing that I would love. I would love to take the keyboard from the back and have it here, so I can start an idea on the Atom. But if I need to transition, all I have to do is pull that tray out and do what I have to do.
you produce music, obviously. Do you have any music that's out? Like, I mean, can I, go to Spotify or Apple Music, listen to some of your
Yeah,
music?
absolutely. So pre-pandemic, I was working a lot with artists. Um, and the last project that I put out was with an artist called The Next Day. I produced his entire first EP.
Mhm.
He kind of has like this almost like if the weekend were to be toned down on like the synths and just kind of be more like acoustic or like singer songwriter type thing, but same kind of vibe, very like melancholic melodies. Fantastic EP. It came out great. But then I had other projects planned. Then pandemic hit. I kind of had to take a halt on that. I just didn't
Yeah.
feel comfortable bringing people into the studio. So I started to just produce or put out beat EPs for myself.
Yeah.
Um, I make stuff all the time. So I was like, you know what, let's put these to use. And it was just kind of a way to keep, get me to be creative. As I was mentioning before, kind of showing up every day, kind of working out that creative muscle. So if you go to my website now on the portfolio section, you'll be able to find the stuff that I've done for clients and then the beat tapes. I'm putting out a beat tape every month for this year.
Well, Ivan Calderon, why don't you take us out of here with everything you want to plug, and also just let everyone know how they can follow you and some of your content, and if you have
Sure.
anything you want individuals to purchase. I know you were talking about your beat tapes. Let everyone know what's going on.
Yeah. So you can follow me everywhere at I'm Ivan Calderon, the letter I, the letter M, my first and last name. I'm Ivan Calderon. That's Twitter, Facebook, which I really don't use, Instagram, and then, of course, YouTube. I post a video every week to my YouTube channel, a lot of tutorials, a lot of music production, audio engineering related stuff. Pick up my free production loop kit on my website, ivancalderon.com. Totally free. It just has MIDI scales, MIDI chords, and of course some free loops that you can use to make beats. So yeah, that's again at ivancalderon.com. You'll see it there.
And I will also leave all those links in the show description. Ivan Calderon, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.